Oh, on our next meeting?
Yeah, me too.
You mean you're joining me?
I wish. Where you
Amy. It's about teeny.
Yeah. Well, I gotta do the international business and 104 that's offered by Maryland. It's South Africa,
Oh, yeah.
but it's all looking for me, the economics of the state.
Like, towards the city, sample tours and I.
Also just like
30 seconds to spare.
nailed it.
Thanks.
I'm gonna
Thank
take it.
you.
You ran out. Well, Tracy, would you like a cookie?
Okay.
Yeah, I had to go.
I know. Where's the napkin?
Can you get that?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're a little rusty.
They just announced some new. Southeast Asia's supply chain, India's just like.
I gave her my.
Future of India, like overtaking China. Companies, yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. Once a contact, if that's where I am.
Yeah. It's totally awesome. Too.
Yep, well. I'm on my.
Some of the others mentioned.
Okay. All right, I'll let this up. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I've got it turned off. What am I missing?
Your volume.
Test. Okay. Tell me, are you ready? Ready. Get the mic. Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. This is the Town of Kensington, April 10th, Town Council meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So next up, we'll have a moment of silence. Is there anyone that we should be lifting up this evening? No.
I would just mention that Welch's neighbors, Marty, Monica lost her father. It's a fairly prominent person in DC circles, Mark Russell.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's about that. I didn't realize that that was her father. Okay, well, if we could bow our heads for a moment. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Council, everybody received the minutes. I know Nate and Connor have responded that there was no edits. I looked at it, no edits. Good.
No,
All right, Susan, thank you very much. So I just need an approval, motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes from the March 13th town council meeting.
Okay, is there a second? A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, we will get down to the mayor and town council announcements. We do have an election coming up. We have one every year, June 5th. And the nominations are due in by Monday, May 8th. Councilmember Bartram and Councilmember Crimmins are both up for re-election this year and both have the option of running. We will have a forum, assuming that we have more than 2 candidates running for 2 seats. We will have a forum, and that will be on Monday, May 22nd. I believe we're doing that as a hybrid. Is that what the plan is? Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is the Joseph's Park. We are considering the sale of Joseph's Park in order to purchase property on this side of town. Matt, do you want to start the conversation on that, please?
Sure. The council and the town staff have been discussing the possibility of selling Joseph Park. which is located at 3420 Pliers Mill Court, for about a year now. We held an on-site meeting last month. And at the last council meeting in March, the council asked that we attend this again, speak about this again tonight, and encourage public comment. If the council decides to proceed with the sale of the property, a formal public hearing would be held at that time. This evening is just for additional comment on the possibility of the sale.
Okay, great. When we ask for public comment, you'll be asked to go to the podium and just give your name and your street. Council, do you have any questions before we open it to the public? Nope. Okay, and of course, people online, you can raise your hand as well if you want to speak, but we'll start with the people in the room. If you want to say anything, just go to the podium and give your name and your street. You don't have to.
Beth Meyer, Wheatley Street, and yeah, I like having it as green space. My dog likes it. It's got beautiful old trees, and nothing's ever been done to it. If you just put a bench or picnic tables, I think it would be a lot more conducive to use. I think we could raise the money another way.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Anyone else? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, council. My name is Zachary Carmichael. I live on Pliers Mill.
And we did receive your email
Good,
that we were
good.
going to acknowledge that
This is what I
after.
was going to ask.
Yes, thank you.
So I don't know what the council would be, if I should read some of what I wrote.
They did receive the email. I think everybody had an opportunity to read it, but
Well, maybe for those who haven't read it,
Mhm.
I can synthesize
Sure.
just a couple of points.
Mhm.
It was great to hear your remarks as well. I think I listed about 5 different points in there. And one of the questions I was asking to the council was a bit of the rationale behind the sale, right? Because if it's a financial transaction, it's a world that I come from. There are a lot of different options we can look at for generating that type of funding. But for the rationale on my side, there are just a few things I just wanted to highlight to the council's consideration. So first, a sale would really be irreversible. And the argument that I was trying to make is that there's a lot of pressure on our green spaces. And so that sale being irreversible, it's not as if it would come back into the town's possession at a future date. So it's from a financial transaction versus having land in hand. Land arguably is a much rarer commodity for the town to actually own. The second idea resonates with my fellow town member here would be green spaces really should be conserved. They should be protected. There are a lot of reasons for that. But I think I was pointing to how the county now is 1.5 times larger than it was in 1990. And the requirements and the pressures on that space is just going to keep growing over time. A third piece here was on precedent setting. And if the council does decide to move forward with the sale, I think it would also be important to accompany that decision with a view on the remaining green spaces that we have. So that it doesn't necessarily indicate that there would be a precedent that other parks would be sold over time. Fourth point here was on the historical value. It's more of a minor point depending on who you talk to. But the namesake for that park is William Joseph. It goes back to the very beginnings of the town itself. And I think there is an argument, there's historical value in the sense of connecting us to that land, being able to experience it, physically touch that land. The fifth piece here is more on considerations for the maintenance of that property. It's a very small property. We walk by there all the time. Doesn't really take much. I think it's more self-maintaining, maybe mowing the grass, but the council will certainly know the distinctions there. So I don't know, I won't spend much longer. But I was also providing some options for alternative uses for that property. If there's a view that it's underutilized. So for instance, I know Montgomery County has a master gardeners program. And there are different ways of engaging with the community here. So we could create it as a different space for, creating a pollinator garden We could create some outreach, community engagement, education classes on pollinator friendly practices. There are a lot of different things that we can actually do with that space. We could create a food forest or a food type of a community garden as well. But it's for all of those different reasons why I think it would be great if the town considered keeping this in its possession and looking for alternative means for raising those funds. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience want to say a few words before we open up to the people on Zoom? I see you, Leslie. Hold on. I see you. Okay, I don't think anybody else here is going to speak. So Leslie, do you want to go ahead? And you're on mute, so unmute.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't realize the audio from the Zoom would be so low on my part, so I'm not sure whether you can hear me.
Yes,
better
we
than
can.
I could hear. Okay. So I personally, I would like to see the land kept by the town, but I also prepared something for review by the Kensington Historical Society. And while I can't speak for them, if there is a move to proceed with a sale, the meeting of the Kensington Historical Society is tomorrow. And there is a lot of merit to retaining that parcel and recognizing it for the history. And just because there have been some questions really last minute about what the importance is of the property, I have just a couple paragraphs to read. Kensington's history began as Joseph's Park through a land grant from the Lord Proprietary Charles Calvert of 4,220 acres to Mr. William Joseph in 1689. The land was used for agriculture until his son sold it to Mr. Daniel Carroll in 1736. Mr. Carroll was one of only 5 men to sign both the Articles of Confederation in 1777 and the Constitution in 1787. He sold several parcels of land to local farmers, and Kensington's current day form came from Mr. George Knowles' property following the construction of the Metropolitan Branch Line from DC to Point of Rocks in 1873. This is the parcel that, the last remaining parcel of that original parcel that is the basis for the town of Kensington.
But just out of curiosity, wouldn't St. Paul Park be part of that parcel?
Yes, St. Paul Park would be, and I guess where the houses are, we're all part, but this is the only town park, the only part that is actually belongs to the town.
St. Paul Park belongs to the town. I don't know why you think it doesn't, but it does.
Well, but it is partnered with the county.
No, it is a town park. The county has nothing to do with St. Paul Park.
Okay, from everything online, there is a different interpretation on St. Paul Park.
I don't know where you're reading that from. It is
A whole bunch of different things.
town-owned park. Town maintained, town owned.
Okay.
So I just want to be clear, it's not a county park. It is our largest park that the town owns.
Okay. It is cited that the town has 7 parks and the county has 3 within the town of Kensington. So
Technically, they
we
have
need to
4.
discuss- Huh?
Technically, they have 4 because the HOC is also a park. It's just owned by Montgomery County Public Schools. So
Okay, I'm just, a lot of this comes from what I find on county records and historical documents. So the main point is the parcel at Pliers Mill and Wheatley is in fact part of that park, and it is a town park.
no, I understand.
Part of St. Paul Park. And it is only one of 2 parks in the north side of the town. And while the need for parking is really great for businesses and for retail. It should not come at the expense of open space. I think there have been several pieces of legislation that have been recently passed to emphasize the importance of having open space, mature trees, and their contribution to the health and welfare of the people around them. And I think that it would be a mistake to lose that parcel.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody else want to speak? You can. Go ahead, Alicia.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Tracy.
Mhm.
So Leslie, thank you for mentioning the value of just having green space. It's been scientifically proven, and it's just a really nice little part of going out on a walk and just seeing that green and those trees. It's a health benefit that we all get. And I'd like to thank the gentleman who spoke about mentioning a pollinator garden, because that's an idea that a friend was talking with me today, and she mentioned this, and I thought, that is so awesome. That's a great idea. It's consistent with the town's mission. It would be so nice to have a pollinator garden, to include some native plants. You might remember at the March 1st on-site meeting that when we talked about a bench, I volunteered to buy the bench, and I'm still happy to buy the bench, but I would also be happy to be part of looking into a pollinator garden and funding at least part of it.
Okay,
Okay, and
go ahead.
okay, so if nobody else has a question, I know that you've assured us several times that the decision hasn't been made yet. And I hope, well, I figure you're an honest person, so the decision hasn't finally
It
been.
has not been made.
yet.
That's correct.
But I kind of do feel like maybe subconsciously the decision has been made, because the town is taking actions as if they're going to sell the park. And the discussions by particular council members are pushing about the benefits of selling the park. And we don't even know the timeline for when M&T would sell their parking lot, which is what this sale is trying to fund. And I just find it really weird that we opened a dialogue when the town had already had the property appraised, had the Greenscape Committee look at it, talked with M&T Bank about purchasing the lot. And then on the March 13th audio, I heard that the town manager was reporting the steps to sell the park that were recommended by an attorney. And another thing that I heard on the March 13th audio, which came as a total surprise, despite getting the invite to the on-site and looking at agendas, there was an unsolicited bid at some point. And I wonder, how much is that driving this whole thing, this unsolicited bid?
I don't think somebody actually put in a bid. They put in we were contacted by a real estate agent who said that she had a client who would be interested in bidding.
Thank
So there
you
was
for that
no
clarification.
Yeah, there was no actual, we'll give you X amount of dollars.
A bid came in after we publicly announced.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. But I haven't seen the bid.
So Alicia, just so sorry to make sure you could hear, well, Matt, if you want to. You're the town manager.
So we did receive an unsolicited purchase. It came in after it was announced that we were considering selling the property. So it had already been made public that we were considering selling it, and that's when a local developer through a local real estate agent approached the town about possibly purchasing the property.
But I don't think they gave us, I mean, possibly purchasing is not giving us a price and saying, here's a check for X amount of dollars.
There was no formal price provided. to the
Okay,
town.
so I don't consider that necessarily a bid. That's somebody who just showed interest.
And I would just add to that, that I would never consider selling this park to a sole bidder.
Right.
And I would never consider selling it before we had opportunity to hear from the public. And we're not just hearing from the public at the on-site meeting, we're hearing from tonight. And we know there will be another public discussion if we move forward with an ordinance to transfer. So there will be ample opportunity. And I would just encourage people to let us know their views.
Yeah, I'd like to add, just Alicia, to one of the points that you made. I really hope you take away that there is no decision that has been made. You pointed out a number of things that the council has done and that the town has done to prepare for these discussions, and that's just it. We are charged with the responsibility of the town, both in the immediacy, but in the long term. And looking at the sale of this one lot is just a discussion we're starting. But to be able to have that discussion, we foresaw the possibility that people would ask, what's the property worth? So we asked to go have an appraisal done. And what about the trees? So we asked for an arborist to look at it and for the Greenscape Committee to review it. We wanted to be prepared to have a conversation with our residents, which is what is happening now. I think we met on site. We've been trying to do everything we can just to start a conversation. This isn't a, hey, we're selling the property, what do you guys think of it? It's we're having discussions about things we could do now for long-term planning and benefit of the town. This is just one option, but our process has to be a public process. And we are a highly transparent town. So we've been trying to foresee all of the information that people might want to have and discuss and try and gather that information so that we could come in and have, this is what, now the third month in a row that we've talked about it. Darren alluded to, we haven't even had the public hearing on it, right? There hasn't even been an ordinance. So the point is we have to start somewhere to talk openly and forthrightly about it. I hope you really do come away, at least from tonight's meeting, of knowing like all the actions we've taken is just so that we can all be informed about possibilities.
And I believe we sent, how many letters did we send out to the neighborhood?
We
Like,
sent out 55 residential letters. So we basically went 3 blocks out from the park, which is much further than we would for a speed hump or any kind of traffic control device. So, we were trying to include the community with the on-site meeting. As the council members have noted, this is the 3rd consecutive month that we've had this on the agenda. So, we're trying to get the information out there to get feedback from the residents and community.
And the letter, by the way, it included the report from Mulherron, they were the arborists who did the consult, which was really helpful. I guess the other stuff must have happened between mailing the letter and when we had the meeting, because I understand wanting to prepare. I think being prepared for discussions is really important. So thank you for confirming that it was just in preparation. It's not like the wheels are in motion. It's just to prepare for the discussions. I find that very reassuring.
And to go back to a point that Mr. Carmichael brought up of our commitment to all of the other parks in town, I'll speak only for myself. This isn't a discussion to set a precedent to start offloading green space. This one, and I tend to speak first on this one because my property line touches this property. It is part of my backyard. And I really don't, and Beth, I know we see each other at St. Paul Park all the time. I never see anybody in this park. I know.
Yeah, well, I think, I'll let Leslie talk about that because being in the park it's not all that's of value.
And I'm not saying that is just the one metric to look at. I'm just saying, as I stare out my backyard and I look at that park versus my front yard and I look at St. Paul Park, sitting up here, my thought was, if we're going to ever have a conversation, let's just gather some information and just start talking about it.
But let's do it.
yeah, you need to be doing that up here.
So,
Just
Yeah.
as we are being.
sorry, that's my fault.
But wait a minute,
Well,
let's finish with
yeah.
can we finish with Alicia first?
Yeah, Alicia, did you have anything else?
Yeah, the only one thing is that I heard on the March 13th audio that there was some discussion about what would happen to the root systems of the trees and how would drainage impact the trees if a single family house was built. And so maybe take down those trees and replace them with new plantings. Some of these should, like the youngest one looks like it's 65 years old, the oldest about 200 years old. So I'd really like it if Mulherron could tell us about what would happen if there's a house there. What would it do to the roots? How can we avoid damage? What would it do to drainage? And that would be great to know. I think that would really inform a discussion of whether to have covenants or whether to just try planting new trees. So,
Okay.
and then the only thing is I want to go back to Leslie.
Okay. Leslie, we have Mr. Myers is up here too. Can we go with him first?
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
So yes,
Yeah.
Larry Meyer on Wheatley Street. And I just, I think there's also a perception problem here, because Elisa alluded to the fact that she said that it seems like it's a done deal. And I'll admit, I'm in an echo chamber. I'm talking to people who live close to that, who are invested in that property as it is right now. I'm hearing lots of people in my immediate surroundings who I'm surprised they're not here tonight, but then I'm not. They all said, it's a done deal. That property is sold in all but name. And they all said, this is not anything that's going to change. And it's a shame that people feel that way at this point. And I think we need to be careful and be sure that we do have this as an open conversation, because this town has a history of bad relations and bad moments. And I'd hate to see us in that area again.
Larry, what would you have us do differently than we've done?
I think what you're doing tonight is great. I just want to make sure we continue that conversation.
Because
enjoying what you're
to
saying.
Connor's point, like, we got the appraisal, we got the assessment of the trees in preparation for questions. Had we not gotten those information, we would be subject to a claim that we were going on out making decisions half-cocked and that we weren't preparing for this. And so we could take criticism from either direction, no matter what we do.
Absolutely.
And I feel like having, being as transparent as I know how, there ought to be a reciprocal assumption of good faith on our part, not an assumption that it's a done deal, not that
Jared, I'm not saying that it is, but I'm telling you what I've heard from several people.
And
over the course
I'll be
of the
honest,
day.
if those
And
people want to come
I
here to
wish they
this
were
meeting
here.
and tell me that, if you're not telling me that, let them come and tell me. Don't carry the water for them, because it's a serious accusation for a government committed to transparency and openness, that it's a done deal and that we're not undertaking this process in good faith. So I'd like to hear from whoever wants to claim that we are not acting in good faith and not actually interested in public comment.
And I'll just say that I very much appreciate the comments that have come in tonight, because it's made me have a couple of different perspectives on it that I hadn't prior to tonight. So we need more public comment, and we need more people to come and give us their views, because we're otherwise more or less making decisions in a vacuum. So we need to hear from you all. So tonight has been, at least so far, very informative and very helpful for me personally. So thank you.
The other thing, just for everybody in there, I think we make the best decision when we share the information most broadly. And so I hold the deed for this property. I was curious, what is its history? I don't know fully, and maybe the Kensington Historical Society can help Leslie on this issue. This property was in private hands until 1956, at which point it was transferred to the town. So it has been a town park since 1956. That to me, that's not determinative one way or the other, but it's an additional piece of information about what tie to history that parcel has. So I just want everybody to know that. I want you to have the same information I have.
That's really good. Thank you.
Leslie, do you want to go ahead and add your comment?
okay. So there've been a lot of comments about the value of open space, et cetera, and I just wanted to add to that. So the parcel has been owned by the town since 1956, and is described as a grassy lot with mature trees. It is the last remaining open parcel from the Wheatley subdivision, which is one of 10 subdivisions that were in place when Kensington was incorporated in 1894. A recent review by an arborist indicated that of the 7 trees in 1U, 4 were excellent, 2 were good, and 2 were fair. And that's important. That study is important because the state of Maryland is considering 2 bills which will promote land conservation. And the Montgomery County Council just recently passed the Forest Conservation Bill, which expands forest planning and forest conservation. All of that is leaning toward the importance of open space. And I find that kind of counters the fact that people don't use that park, as it does not have any seating or designated entrance to the park, although you can get there. So to say that it's invaluable because it's not used is like fighting words. I mean, it's not relevant to the importance of that lot. Studies supporting recent legislation are everywhere. Like trees provide 1 day's worth of oxygen for 4 people. That's from the North Carolina State University. A mature tree absorbs about 48 pounds of carbon dioxide per year, replacing it with oxygen. And a mature tree can absorb pollutants from a car driven 26,000 miles. That's from the Arbor Day Foundation. Well-placed trees reduce air conditioning needs by 30%. That's from the U.S. Forest Service. There's just a number of important studies that support open space. And I know this is designated as a park, but it would be nice to have a couple of benches there, to have a plaque stating its importance. And perhaps at that point, we could put to rest kind of a reoccurring effort to sell that parcel, because this isn't the first time. It's come up before. And
When did it come up previously?
during the Fossilman era.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Well, I now for a little bit of in time. I mean, there's never been a formal proposal.
No, but it's a discussion like we're having now. And it's
I
just at
disagree
some
with
point, you'd like to not have the discussion. You'd like to feel that the open space in the town remains and that everything isn't subject to disposal. So all the information that's been gathered by the town council is important. A study of the trees and, an evaluation. But countering that is the absolute importance of having that open space. And to the argument that no one uses it, then let's make it a little more user-friendly for people to be able to sit if that's a concern. But that parcel is just a valuable cornerstone in the north part of the town.
Karen, can you clarify that one time that it was discussed?
There have been, again, nothing on the agenda, nothing formal. But I've lived in town for 27 years, I think. There have been a variety of proposals for an increased use of the park. I remember a vegetable garden, community garden was one proposal, which would have apparently required removing the trees so that there was sunshine on the plants. There was a proposal for a labyrinth. Our current dog park is on borrowed land. So there is some suggestion that it would make a good use as a dog park. I mean, there are, so it has been actively considered throughout the years, just nothing has attracted the attention of people in the public to move forward with that. And the only thing that seems to attract the public attention is proposal or the consideration of selling it. So if there's a way to activate the park that we're not doing, I mean, I'm certainly open to hearing that as well. So that's step one. The other step I would like to just to sort of throw out there again, in the interest of more information. I, I think we're in the mode of maintaining or increasing the amount of parks in town. And so whereas Circle Manor, Circle, I forgot what it's called.
Warner Circle Manor.
Thank you. Warner Circle
Fall.
previously
Mansion.
was in private hands, operated as a nursing home. It will still be a donut around whatever it ultimately is built there. Around with the mansion. And so that will remain a county park that we did not have previously. So you know, I'm certainly not in the mode of disposing of park assets. I'm looking for, you know, public comment on what we do with this one particular parcel, which doesn't seem to have an active use.
Yeah, and I want to ask Alex a question. Alex, how many trees did we plant this year? 41. Okay, I just want to make it clear, we don't just cut down trees, we actually plant trees too. So I just want to make that clear that we're not, you know, trees may come down, but we are replacing a lot of trees. I mean, we spend a lot of money planting trees in this. So I just want to make sure everybody knows we are a tree city and proud of it, and we'll continue to.
Every
Add
year
to
we
our-
qualify as a tree city.
Yes, we do. So, okay, so I don't want to make, I want to make sure everybody, Beth, you said, well, when, Beth, yes, you have to go up front
Jen
here. and then-
Bedette is also on the.
Oh, Jen Bodette has something. Does she have her hand up?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Jen, I'll get you after.
Yeah, I'm basically seconding what I said, but Larry did what everyone said, Alicia, and, but, for example, the other day I was at the post office, and that swing at Flynn Park is just so inviting. And I just walked over and started swinging on the swing. And, you know, Biscuit goes there, Pluto goes there, you know, a bunch of dogs do go there, and we meet up with each other and they play. And my daughter doesn't like to walk too far, so we just, every walk is just to St. Joseph's Park. That's where she walks our dog. So, you know, my opinion is like Flynn Park is so inviting now. And so it's just not fair to say people, the park is really pretty huge considering there's nothing there. So if you just put anything there, then it'll be used exponentially.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Bolin?
You have to mention it.
Just name and street.
Oh dear, sorry. Alwyn Logan, Kensington Parkway. And this is the first town meeting I've ever attended, and
Welcome.
Welcome.
And then not your last, I hope.
And then in person.
I wasn't really expecting to speak, but I really just have, and I don't know too much about this at all. I haven't lived here very long, but I've got a question which kind of goes back to what Council Member Bartram said. When the land was bequeathed, I assume, to the town, on what basis was it?
I'm looking to the Kensington Historical Society for an
I
assistance. It's a straight deed from the Hydes who owned it to the town.
Not that it was retained as open space. That
There is no
was-
restriction in the deed on its use. There is no consequence for its reconveyance. Again, you know, that's the information I have.
Okay, I don't know.
think it was
whether
$10.
Leslie can help.
Cost $10 to get the deed.
I
Oh,
That was the.
that was the
yeah,
cost that we gave $10. Okay.
thought I had heard it was given on the basis that it was retained as open space, which would make a difference. to
That
this
would be a
whole
big
discussion.
difference.
That would be a
Yes.
big difference. That is not the basis.
That's
of
not.
the deed.
okay. I wonder if Leslie has anything to say on that. Maybe. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Okay, let me open it up to people who haven't. Jen, you had your hand up.
Hi, yes, Jen Bodette, Farragut Avenue. Yeah, my original comment was very similar to, sorry, I didn't catch the lady's name who was right before Olin, but about having something sort of invite you into that green space. It was a very similar comment. Even just today, I was walking the dog and went through the Clem Kennedy Park and was just noticing, that those gorgeous walkways, the brick, it just invites you in. Like it very easily could have passed the park with my dog walk, walked up Kensington Parkwood, but it invites you into that space and the benches are there. And just to have that extra area where you could be on a walk, or frankly, kids are playing, and to have a place to convene that's not safe. I mean, absolutely thrilled about St. Paul Park in our part of town. Could not be happier, but the idea of losing a piece of green space to a house, to I don't know, whatever else was suggested. I came on a little bit late. I just can't even imagine. So that was basically my comment, just something to invite you in, even something as simple as a walkway, some garden, some flowers and a bench, just creates an opportunity for gathering of neighbors and just to beautify our neighborhood. So the other point, or more of like a question, was somebody made a comment about now there's attention to this piece of land because there's a threat of, maybe selling it. And so now there's attention. So what would be, maybe I'm unclear on what would it take to activate this piece of property? Is this a Greenscape committee sort of topic or agenda item, or is this something that the town crew would just, formulate a proposal and go in and do something with it, whether it be a labyrinth or a butterfly garden or just a park bench? I'm curious about the next steps on that.
Well, Greenscape actually looked at this a year or so ago, and we were looking at doing a labyrinth. I mean, I think everybody should remember it's a small piece of property and it abuts residential homes. There's only so much activation that you want to create in that space because you literally are right next door to somebody's house. So let's just, activity wise, you have to be sensitive to the proximity of your neighbors. So a labyrinth was something we thought might be a good thing because it's a quiet activity. Obviously, because of small children that might come and you're right next to Pliers Mill Road, you might want to have a fence to make sure the kids don't run out into the street. And then when we were standing out there for the meeting, I personally realized, wow, this is really loud. You are sitting, you are next to Pliers Mill Road. And a labyrinth is meant to be a quiet space in which you go to be reflective and to walk through. And a labyrinth isn't going to work in that location because it's just too noisy. So it was, I don't think we've given up, but I do think that we have to recognize that it is a residential lot in a tight spot next to two residential homes. And then, of course, Connor's in the corner there, but it just makes it a little bit more difficult to find a usage. And that was one of the things that Greenscape has worked on, is that for all our parks, there is a sense of place for what it is. Clem Kennedy is our garden park. Glen Park is the fountain park. Reinhardt is a playground. St. Paul's is our big park for all sorts of activities. So every park was to have a sense of place. And we had not figured out what is a good sense of place at Joseph's Park.
And this is Anne. I want to add on to Mayor Tracy's comment. Thank you, Jen, for sharing your views and also for mentioning the Greenscape Committee. So the Greenscape Committee discussion that Mayor Tracy's referring to happened over the last couple of years. If you've been following along in the town council minutes and in the town journal, the Greenscape Committee is focusing more directly now on the tree canopy. And that was why I'd asked a couple council meetings ago that we have the Greenscape Committee, in addition to Mulherron, go and look at the space. I'm raising that because I think there's interest in tree canopy, not just in our public spaces, but also in our private spaces, and encouraging the preservation of the tree canopy throughout the town. And you're going to see more on that again in this town journal. There's an article about what can be done around street trees. And I know that we're also considering not just Joseph's Park, but what I would like the council to consider, and I'm curious what the public thinks, to also look at all of our green spaces and do an inventory of other parcels. I know there's a parcel right by St. Paul Street where there are mature trees. All of these sites, I think, should be examined for their importance for our stormwater system, our water retention, which is another valuable asset that trees provide, in addition to all the ones that Leslie mentioned. And I'm going in a bit of a roundabout way to get back to your comment, Jen, but I think there's an opportunity if we look at all of our green spaces as part of a connected ecosystem within our community to say, how are we optimizing the use of these spaces, whether it's for water retention and stormwater use, for pollinator garden use, for tree canopy use, for public gathering spaces. I mean, we do have some parks in town that are abutted by homes, like Flynn Park is an active park with benches and swings and has 2 homes on either side.
Not quite as close, but yeah.
So I think it's, that's one of the things I'm taking from this conversation, that I think it's important for us to look not just at one parcel and the role that one parcel plays, well, that is what is on the agenda tonight, but that we really should be looking across the full town and understanding how are we optimizing all of our spaces and thinking about in that regard. So I think there's an opportunity for the Greenscape Committee to be a part of that, and we would welcome in other, town members to participate in that process as well. We also have the Sustainable Kensington Committee that Nate and I are co-chairing, that is also looking at a very similar set of issues. And if you saw the survey results that went out, a lot of townspeople are concerned about water, tree canopy, composting. I think were big issues.
Community gardens and pollinator gardens.
Yeah.
That was a long response. So Jen, do you have any follow-up? Are you good? Did we answer your question?
No, I think you both answered my question really well. And I guess just a response to that is just in terms of what I said about being invited into the park, if that's not what's deemed the use of that particular park, like Mayor Tracy, you mentioned each park has a particular purpose. It makes total sense to me that perhaps it just be defined that the use of that park is not necessarily for people to gather, but for a tree canopy or a pollinator garden or something along that line, or even, we've got the, the fountain in Flynn Park. Perhaps instead there's a call for artists. I'm always plugging the artists in the local community, but perhaps a call for artists and, some sort of sculpture be put in that park just for the sake of preserving green space. Doesn't have to be something where people go in and gather, just for the sake of keeping the green space for the water retention, tree canopy, and just for our mental health.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. Yeah.
Okay, Karen, I see your hand up. Did you want to speak? Karen Craig,
You're on mute.
can you speak a little loud? You're on mute. Just. No. Maybe she had to step away for a child.
Sorry, no, I had a problem trying to find my unmute button. I'm on my phone. And first, I really do want to just share my appreciation that these meetings have continued in a hybrid manner post-pandemic, because it does make it easier for people like myself who have young children at home to be able to call in and listen and kind of follow on with what's going on in the dialogue in town. I wanted to just comment that I think that I really appreciate the conversation about the appropriate use of the park. When I moved here in 2019, I'm not even sure if there was a sign at the corner there yet.
I think there was. There's always been a sign out there.
Maybe it was small, but it's just kind of awkward. And as other people have said, like, you don't really know if you can go on it. It is very close to people's houses. It doesn't have a sense of place. So I think Anne's right that an evaluation of kind of what are the purpose of these parks, you know, from an environmental perspective, and I've worked in environmental due diligence and planning and mitigation for over 20 years. I'm not particularly as concerned as some other people here about the loss of that open space. I think what is problematic for me at this time with this conversation is that this conversation only seems to be happening because there is an intended connected action with the sale. And I regret that. And I think when, you know, Darren says, gosh, it's harsh to hear these criticisms about whether or not this is a decision the council's already been made. I think that it's hard not to think that when there is already an idea for what the use of the money would be. And so it makes it difficult to objectively evaluate what is the purpose of this park. How should it be prepared in a way that people could utilize it? Or is it just a nice kind of empty space for a sign that kind of welcomes you into Kensington as you're driving in on Pliers Mill? It's hard to think about that objectively when there's also but if we have this money, then we might have enough money to buy the M&T spot, and then we might be able to utilize that for more parking, which may bring in more customers into town, may also bring in a lot of unintended consequences. Like, I think I'm more concerned about the environmental impact of that connected action and the traffic into our small streets in town, and encouraging continued kind of car use rather than alternative modes of transportation than I am with the singular loss of the park. And I wish that the conversations were disconnected. I wish that there wasn't kind of the pressure of that connected action, because I do think it's an important community thing. I honestly, as someone who lives very close to that park, what concerns me individually is, what would a developer do with it? It's a really small parcel. And so the house that's going to be placed there is either going to take up the entire plot size. It's going to look a little weird, you know, I think in the space.
Well, just to
But
be
that's
clear, because
not-
it has two fronts, it's because it's a corner lot, it has two fronts, there's 25 feet setbacks on each side, or on
Yeah,
the Pliers Mill and on the Wheatley side. And then you have a 10-foot setback on the south side of the property. So the house could only be so wide, and then it can only be 35 feet. So it would not be a gigantic house.
but what are the height restrictions? I mean, is it going to be one of
35 feet.
these
35 feet. So that's
for the
two
height?
and a half,
Okay.
2.5 stories.
I mean, Karen, if you've gone by my house, if you
You
look,
know
the peak of my
yeah.
house is about 31 feet.
So you know what it makes me think of, you know, the blue house that's up at that they just kind of
It's at Farragut in St. Paul.
yeah, it's at Farragut in St. Paul.
Okay.
I just think it's a really awkward space. And so is that the best intended use? Like, and again, I'm not concerned if the town decides that the upkeep isn't worthwhile. It is underutilized. Like, I think that those are all valid arguments to be having the discussion. I think it's unfortunate that the discussion is with this connected action, and perhaps we should be talking about it more holistically, if that's true.
Okay.
If I can, Karen, I don't disagree with that statement at all. I mean, I agree 100%, but in an attempt to just be as transparent as we can, while we were on the on-site visit, a question was asked, like, what would the proceeds of this sale likely go toward? And we're being honest, like, we are evaluating, the town's always evaluating things. We have to be looking at the property we control, as well as the things that our residents are looking for us to do. The dog run is another one of those situations where we don't actually own that land. We'd like to, we've tried to. We're always evaluating different things in the town, and somebody just asked the question, what might the proceeds from this sale go toward? And so we were very honest that one of the things we're evaluating is the M&T Bank lot, right? And these proceeds could go toward that. It could just go into our budget, into CIP projects. So I also.
Well,
regret that
that's
they're
what
late.
it's the
It was-
nearness of the M&T
Right.
Bank sale, right? Like that's going to
But
happen
it's
soon. Like
because we're
if
your
it were,
neighbors, and when you ask us questions, we're just being honest. These are the current things that are being considered and talked about, but there's no linkage between the two. It's not like we need these proceeds to go do that, but somebody asked and we answered. And I do, I regret that people think that we're offloading, we're having a discussion to offload a park just to buy a parking lot. That's not the case. It just so happens that those are two things being talked about.
Yeah, I would
Mhm.
just say that I would support buying that lot, that parking lot, irrespective of whether
That's
we
what I-
do this, because I think it is a unique opportunity. And so come hell or high water, I want that lot.
Mhm.
The previous mayor once referred to this park as a rainy day fund. And so it was in the context of considering other uses for it. Labyrinth wasn't considered, but that was when the community garden was considered. I just think that until there's a potential use, converting it from a park to cash doesn't make any sense, because there might not be the most sensible transaction. But when there is a potential use, which is, it's still a little ways off. I think it's at least a couple of years off. I think we're ultimately accountable to the residents of the town. We try to be responsible with the finances, and we have a balanced budget, and we try not to spend more money than we bring in. If I view the M&T lot as significant enough that I'm not gonna say I'm gonna raise your taxes, but I think that would be a responsible thing to do because of the enormous benefit to the town. I don't think we have to go
But
there.
I mean, I have to say in defense of, I think some of the statements that have been made around the linking these two, they're,
Mhm.
I mean, even in our meeting minutes, it's for the purpose of acquiring this property. So I think
Right.
that could be communicated better in the future.
Sure.
So moving forward, we should delink them, in my view.
Because would you agree with the statement that Darren made that,
We should get the lot no matter what.
Yes.
Yes.
okay, yep,
And we should have a
And if it's
separate.
Guarantees.
the M&T lot.
Everything we can. do
And
to
for
get
people
that.
to understand, the M&T lot is because I don't think, for us, all of us, we have the ability to walk pretty much everywhere we go. There are a lot of people that can't walk, and this town cannot support our businesses on our own. We have to bring people in. We're very lucky we have created a vibrant business community, but that vibrant business community needs more people than what we have to support it. And those people don't have the ability like we do to drive everywhere. So right now we are having a problem, and I know Owen would be happy to speak on this, is there parking in the neighborhood? So we need to create some additional public parking to support our small businesses. And quite honestly, our farmers market needs that parking lot as well. If you've ever been to a farmers market, you will know how packed that parking lot is with farmers market people that are, their customers. So it's very important that we provide additional parking. And this is a good way of doing it and we can create green space within there. We can create a parking lot that is, sustainable. There's lots of opportunities there. So, because the next owner may not let us use it, and that will really be bad for our business community. So I just want to be clear that the importance of this parking lot, while everybody is here saying, if we don't sell Joseph's Park, we've got to get that parking. So I just want people to understand. Alicia, your hand is up. Leslie, I'll come back to you.
Okay, I heard something about it's a couple of years away. So
It's at least probably, I'm not sure, a couple. It's hard to say because M&T is not going to sell it until they physically move to that location. So with the way construction's going right now, it's hard to give an actual date because, I don't think they're going to start construction until July,
Mhm.
but they were supposed to open the coffee shop at Medina last fall.
And they,
So-
yeah, they anticipated construction on this property in November.
Yes.
So it's,
They don't have a.
So and then they have to build out the space, but M&T is not selling anything until they have a place to move to. So it's up in the air of when that actually will. So. Do you have another question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I have to figure out how to take my hand down,
oh, we'll
but
get it for you, don't worry.
Okay, then I'll go to Leslie.
so so if you had to approximate, because we have to get, that building has to be built and it has to be built out and M&T has to move and they're not going to sell the parking lot until they move. Is that, like, if you had to make your best guess, is it 18 months, 2 years, 2.5 years? I have no possible idea.
I'd like to be realistically
So-
2024 fall,
Yeah,
maybe,
I mean,
fall 2024.
Alicia, as DRB, I constantly call and ask these people what the timelines are, and they fluctuate because supply chain and other things. Right now, the rule of thumb, they're kind of working with, and what I'm talking about is the building out of the Hawkins site at Pliers Mill and Connecticut Avenue, where M&T will relocate to. They are hoping, they'd like to have a shovel in the ground in June of this year. I think it'll be more July, but they are still optimistic for June of this year. They are anticipating a 12 to 14 month build and build out. And then obviously M&T will make a decision on their move-in timeframe. I mean, if you pad that a little, maybe a year and a half, so June, like to what the mayor said, September, October, maybe of 24. And come back every month, because until we see a shovel in the ground, I will keep calling to get an update. And once we do see that first proverbial shovel in the ground, we'll have a better sense from their contractor of timelines. But that's just what is on paper right now.
And I hear we'll be able to get coffee at Medina May 2nd.
Okay, that was my other update. But yes, the cafe at Medina is scheduled to open May 2nd.
So we'll see, fingers crossed.
It was also scheduled to open in November.
Right.
This is just what happens with construction and permitting and use and occupancy and the county. So stay tuned.
So I don't want to cut anybody off if we have more to discuss, but we're not at a hearing. We're not going to make a decision tonight. But I know, Leslie, you had your hand up for one more comment. So, but we do have a lot on our agenda and that I hope everybody stays for. But we've been talking about this for about 50 minutes. So I just want to, but again, if there's more people that want to speak, we're happy to hear them. But Leslie, go ahead.
Just real quick, I certainly have no objection to the town buying the M&T drive-through lot for parking. The objection is using and sacrificing open space to do that. And in the conversations, it's almost that the town would really like to have that parcel. So I agree with Karen's comments in that it seems a bit upfront to sell the lot and then hope to get this land. And when in fact, everybody really wants that parking lot to expand for retail parking. And that is really a good goal. But losing this open space to do that is really the focus of this to me. And I would not support the sale of St. Joseph Park in order to do that, but I totally support moving forward with obtaining that drive-through.
Okay.
So,
All right, just to be clear, it's not a Saint Joseph, it's just Joseph. Just so we don't elevate it too high.
I'm going to make it a saint.
Okay. All right, is anybody seeing any other hands up? I don't see any in the audience. I don't see any online. So thank you all for this great conversation. I really appreciate everybody coming out. And I think we have an email, is that right? Did you want to
Oh, yeah.
just to add that to the?
Sure, just to add to the public record for tonight's meeting. Patrick O'Connor emailed, he lives at 10546 Wheatley Street, so his property abuts Joseph's Park along the southern property line of Joseph Park. So he's the first house in from Pliers Mill. He's not able to attend, but just wanted to send a message about possible sale. He doesn't have any issue with the sale or a sale would result in a new residential house on the property. Selfishly, these are my words, it would add screening of noise from Pliers Mill, which would improve the quality of life for him. Also, when he moved in, he had no house to the south of him. That property was subdivided, a new house went in, he's got wonderful neighbors, and, you know, he believes that, well, this would be a different use, it could still result in a positive gain to the neighborhood.
Okay, so that will be part of the public record.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay. All right, well, we will move on. Thank you, everyone. And
If I can just a cheap plug,
sure.
we're your neighbors. If you see us out and about, especially me, because I'm right by Joseph's Park, and you want to talk more about it, just stop and you know, bend my ear. I mean, Biscuit and Molly sit and talk almost every morning. So please, I'm so glad that everybody who came out and either spoke or participated or just was here to listen. But you can never feel free. I mean,
Never feel free.
always feel free to reach out to any one of us. Email us, call us, text us. If you see me by the park, just, you know, that's what we're here for. So
Yeah, and town staff is more than happy to meet on site.
Yep.
We can discuss with you some of the other plans we're having that might make some of this a little more sense, as Councilmember Lichter noted too. We are looking at expanding some of our properties. You know, there's just a lot of things going on. We're actively seeking another property right now that would increase the green space. It's not public yet, we're just not there. But I'm more than happy to share it, you know, on site or on a phone call or through email. So
Okay, and that's on the north side as
on
well.
the north side, correct?
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you very much. Council, did you want to move forward on this or let it resonate? We'll deal with it next month.
I think I mean, what I said before, I think we should, if we move forward with it, we should separate the two
Okay.
issues, in my view. Because I do think it sounds universal that we have not heard anyone say that the purchase of the M&T lot should not happen.
Mhm.
But I think there's a healthy debate happening and should continue on what that park should be used for and if we should sell it,
Okay.
if we don't want to use it for to create a new identity.
yeah, and I would, whomever, like to work with town staff to look at county regulations, because we've looked at I mean, this is way back when I had Greenscape and you charged me with finding an identity for every
And
park.
you didn't.
Well, we could not find it for this park. No, fair.
He did.
Fair. All the other parks kind of took care of themselves, except for this one, we left. I got off that. committee. I left it back in her corner. But one thing that we did come to realize, and it came up with the dog run as well, is there are other great ideas that come about that also aren't possible because the county has other further restrictions when things are this close to residential property.
And dog park is one of them.
Dog park was one of
It's
them. I
not
mean,
highly
pickleball
recommended.
court, I mean, things like that just are not feasible. Some ideas were brought up here tonight that I had not personally heard before. Are they feasible? I think a food garden potentially could be, but it would result in the loss of the trees. And then we have to have a discussion of, you know, which one outweighs the other. So I'd just like to, we'll go and pull county regulations on when it's this close and abutting to two residential lines, what further restrictions on use there can be.
Okay.
Just so we're informed.
Just so you know, you
Yeah.
guys might know, pollinating gardens, do they require sun or do they,
You can have.
can you have
um,
shade?
shade.
You
Type
can have
shade
native
of it?
plants.
Okay.
that
I don't know
are
enough
pollinators
about a
without
pollinator.
sun.
Okay.
Entire resource.
You can't help from the audience,
Come up here.
but you can come up
It's
here.
just so that everybody gets the
Yeah.
benefit of your.
Yes, it's recorded, so that's why. That's it.
No, I'll put my full cards on the table. I'm an agriculture and food economist.
Okay,
There we go.
So the University of Maryland actually has an entire set of resources of
Yeah.
shade tolerant varieties, both
Right.
for pollinators and for food.
right,
So
okay,
it is an option.
great, thank you.
So.
Okay,
To your question, though. We are not in a hurry to do anything. I think.
no,
we
because,
continue to leave it open.
you know, if we're going to separate the two,
Yeah.
which is fine, and as we stated, M&T is at least a year away before we would be even,
Oh.
Yeah.
so, okay. Great, all right, thank you all.
Don't leave. Lots of more exciting stuff coming up.
Okay, where are we now? We are on,
Council report.
uh,
Council reports.
Town staff and council reports, very top of the
am I
page.
missing a page?
It's on the back.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess that was it. Okay, cool. Yes, council reports. So Darren, do you want to start?
I don't have anything to add
Okay,
this month.
Anne?
The Greenscape Committee is hosting a home tree care 101, which basically means come learn about how to take care of the trees on your property. And we're doing this with Conservation Montgomery on Saturday, April 29th from 10 to 12. There's a link that went out in the town. It's in the current Around Town Journal. You need to register in advance. We have 25 slots of it, 7 of which are taken, so there's still a few left. We would really encourage people to attend. It'll be a great learning opportunity with an arborist. We will meet at Clum Kennedy Park and use the trees there for learning. We may walk across the street to a resident's house and use trees there as well. So please look out for that.
And the town is paying the fee for this.
Yes, the town is using part of the Greenscape Committee budget to cover the cost of having an arborist there. So we encourage town residents to participate. And I think that was my primary thing. I'm gonna defer to Nate on sustainable Kensington.
All right, sounds good. Nate?
Okay, so for the Sustainable Kensington group, we're still working towards our certification submission. Hopefully we will get that in. We are running into a little bit of a speed bump, I would call it, with one of the mandatory actions that we have to do. We have to decide. One of them is we have to do 2 out of the 8 that are on the list. And one of them that we're doing right now is a greenhouse gas inventory for the town. So thank you, Matt and Alex, for helping to provide the information to the UMD student who's helping us with that. But we're trying to figure out if the second action is going to be doing a green purchasing policy or an energy audit. So that has to happen before we submit everything.
Is
Plus,
the energy audit for like this building and public
it would
works?
be this building. We could
Just-
do just one building.
Okay,
So Ann and I have a call with someone from the state on what grants we can get to do that, or if we just want to propose moving forward with that independently. We'll have a recommendation at the next council meeting in May. So we have an action plan. We are working towards submission. We have another meeting. Is it next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Monday.
Next Monday. Coming up fast. Monday, the 17th. Yeah. Should I do my other updates?
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for the pedestrian and bicycling access safety working group, we've gone through, we finished the walkability, bikeability audit. And we're just in the process of prioritizing a list of recommendations that we'll send over to you, Matt, and we'll share with the council. We actually did a very, we implemented an interesting process this year where we provided, basically using our mission statement, our vision statement, we put into categories a quantification index for which segments were the most priorities to implement those recommendations. So we have about 30 segments out of the 100 plus segments of roads that were audited that we have a set of recommendations. So there's about 30 recommendations for maintenance improvements. So we'll share that.
How will that be shared?
I can share it for the next meeting
Okay,
because it's we're just tying up a couple loose ends, and we'll discuss it at our next meeting, which
Okay.
is the week after next.
did you want to do like a PowerPoint or something? Or,
I could do a no, I can't. I'm not going to be at the next meeting.
Oh.
I can provide a PowerPoint
Okay.
or just a summary in the spreadsheet.
okay,
So we'll talk at our next pedestrian bicycling access
Okay.
working group, how to best present that.
okay, because I think we're gonna probably be in person next month too,
Yeah.
so.
It'll only be 2 a.m. You can get online.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, it's
My
hybrid.
pajamas.
So,
Um,
yeah.
So that is what's going on with the prioritization process from the walk audit. We've also almost finalized the brochure that lists some of the accomplishments of the working group so that we can use it as a tool to get more people involved and just, for education and outreach of what improvements have been made over the last couple of years. And we have a new logo
Yeah.
too, which
Mhm.
is exciting and will be on the website. And I'm sure you'll see everyone wearing it around town on t-shirts sometime. And then we'll hopefully be able to
Our
purchase it
swag,
on the
Swag
online
code.
store, right?
swag, yep,
Also, just to let everyone know, I testified on behalf of the town for our, for the county's pedestrian master plan, in person and written testimony, which was, I think, well received. And I will be presenting a PowerPoint for the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments info session for other jurisdictions that are considering doing a transportation land use connections grant like we got
Oh, good.
for the Connecticut Avenue corridor study. So I'll do that on the 20th of April.
Mhm.
Do you want to see the presentation before I give it? It's just gonna be mostly photos from the report.
If you want to send it out, we can just kind of give us an opportunity. to
Yeah,
do it.
it's a little interesting. It's like one of these lightning talk formats where the slides will go every 20 seconds. So
Talk
he's like,
fast.
it's not a lot to prepare. I'm like, okay, well, it's actually gonna take a while to prepare, but it'll be good. I think that he thinks that some of the other jurisdictions want to do similar studies.
Oh,
so.
good. I mean, I think it's great that we're being asked to show what we did.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
really
think so too.
a compliment.
I think COG really liked what we did.
Mhm.
Last but not least, I don't know, do you have any updates?
No.
Should I give you the ULI tap? update?
Oh, I mean, no, I've got, you know.
Okay. So Connor and I were tasked with last month
Mhm.
to follow through with,
Because we approved you spending. the
yeah,
money.
spending the transport
Mhm.
or the technical assistance panel of the Urban Land Institute for how to think through the Connecticut Avenue, University Boulevard split with where the Summit Avenue Extension project will have a terminus and create, some pedestrian bicycling challenges, but also some new development opportunities along that new road. As it is put in, there'll be opportunities for different ways to use that space. So we're going to be moving forward with the panel, and we provided their staff with the scoping document, which was about a page and a half with the key questions that they'll be obligated with us paying for it to answer through the TAP panel. So we've had a couple back and forths, and it seems like they think we're homing in on a couple of really good questions for that. So that process is proceeding. And
When do
we
you
will
expect
plan
that to
to do it.
be? Yeah.
we said mid to late June. right?
Yeah, what we asked for was after Juneteenth. Just,
Yeah.
so the idea is that as part of the technical assistance panel, we provide a lot of background information to the Urban Land Institute, and we pose 5 questions that we want them to specifically address. And what they do is they bring together a panel of specialists. So this could be urban planners, traffic designers, landscape architects, and they look at it from all these different angles based on those questions, as Nate alluded to. Part of it is a on-site walking tour of the areas that we want them to take a look at. So granted, I know temperature, it's going to be summer, but we asked for it to be after Juneteenth, just so that staff was done with all the planning and execution of the Juneteenth.
Try to
Celebration.
avoid the MML summer conference though.
That's the
which is-
last,
yeah,
that's the end of
That's the
June.
26th, 27th.
I think we actually.
We did.
We actually,
We asked.
we actually settled on a couple of potential dates, like in the early
the 20?
early 20s.
Right,
Okay.
and they do like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday approach.
Okay, that worked.
So that schedule will get refined as they go through these questions, and then we will publicize it everywhere we can. There's multiple stakeholder groups that get invited, so it's residents and business owners and county and state agencies that have stakeholder jurisdiction over this. So SHA and MCDOT, all of these different parties will be invited, and they will have breakout sessions where they talk about all of those areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that point, that's awesome. You're moving so quickly. Thank you. And I'm wondering if it would be the right time to engage Rhonda Barrett, who's been active with the Civic Association at Ken Carr, when you have the scoping questions for her reaction as you're looking at dates and looking at all of
Yes,
that.
because we also actively want their civic association to be part of the walking tour and be one of the stakeholder groups, et cetera. Yes.
Okay.
And that is actually one of the, it's being built into one of the questions on how it might impact negatively or positively.
Okay.
The community, the
So-
Kenner community, yeah.
Okay. And I can connect you with her after.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have it.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Sam.
Mhm.
That's it.
Did you talk to Connor about your MMC video?
No, we did not talk yet.
Oh.
Do you want to break it to him?
No, that I noticed that I was going, Maryland has a has a website for people. You can sign up to be a Maryland, what is it, environmental, green city, green register, which we don't know what that is, but College Park has a video I clicked on, and it was introducing the community to composting.
Oh, yeah,
And they use the public works
they do.
person, but I thought it would be nice if you and Nate would do this, introducing, what can go in, and I just think
It'll
it's,
be a fun video.
yeah, it'd be fun.
I have a feeling Nate is going to suggest I dress up in a giant rat costume, and I am,
Raccoon.
okay, all right, well, then I'm on board.
Well, I was hoping for a cute apron or something like that, but
No, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this.
okay. Well, it was actually good because there, it was a woman in a kitchen, and I don't know why it had to be the woman in the kitchen, but she was just basically showing what scraps, the things that you can put.
I have 4 young actors in my house.
I think that would be great.
love To demonstrate
Yeah,
Delegating.
how they know to use the compost bin.
yeah. No, I think it would get some attraction.
Yeah.
It'll be
for
fun.
people.
We'll make
So-
sure to feature every one of you in it too.
Okay. With my pizza box.
The lid, not the.
That's great. Okay, great. Thank you, Nate.
Yeah.
Connor?
Like I said, the cafe is scheduled to open internally to the Modena residents April 28th. And then they are planning a open to the public event on the 2nd, which is like a Thursday. So, which means it should then be open on that following Saturday at Farmers Market, which I think for a lot of people might end up being the introduction to it. So that is the cafe that's at the end of St. Paul Street at Metropolitan Avenue, the former historic gas station that was next to Mizell Lumber.
I think that's the coolest thing about the fact that this is opening, that Modena took 2 historic structures and have totally revamped them. And one of those structures is now will be open to the public.
Yep.
I'd never been in the garage until, under construction. We were able to take a tour in there, but it'll be really great to have these buildings, or at least the one building activated. And of course, the hardware store is being used by the facility as part of their.
Yeah, and then obviously, I'm excited that there isn't Lake St. Paul at the end of the street anymore. These are all small benefits through that project getting completed. Just a couple of the businesses like Baby Cat wanted to say thanks to all the residents. They had their St. Patrick's Day event. It went great. They estimate over the course of the day, they had 900 people
Wow.
come through the event. To their knowledge, they had nothing but high praise and compliments. I mean, to the point of people actively going out of their way to send emails or post on their social media sites, or just come in and say, thank you. I feel like we now have this community place that we all gather but a lot of planning. I know the town helped support it. They shut down, noise ordinance, they shut down promptly at 9, and it just demonstrates another great addition to the town. I assume you will cover all of these things.
There's a lot, but you can start them off. Go ahead.
If you have not looked at the Around Town Journal, there's some on the table upstairs. Take it home with you, or look on our website. Spring is back, and spring means more events.
A lot of it.
So just to give you a rundown from the front page alone, coming up now in April, there's the Trash to Treasure Community Yard Sale on the 22nd, Earth Day Garden Party on the 22nd.
That's at Kensington Library, just so.
Yep. The Kensington Day of the Book Festival is returning after a COVID hiatus. That's Sunday, April 23rd. Anne mentioned the Home Tree Care 101, that is on the 29th. The Kensington Car Show is also scheduled to return on Saturday, the 29th. Gigs is having a special concert on Sunday, the 29th, in support of the Connor Strong Foundation. And then Kensington Art Studio has an open house. The Kensington Dog Parade, which I now have a dog, although I won it without a dog. That is,
How did you do that?
it takes a lot of skill. Kensington Dog Parade is May 13th. And obviously we have a council meeting on May 8th, but there's a lot more about several of these events on or inside of the Around Town Journal. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, please do. I know we all work to contribute articles on things that to give people more detail and information about what's happening, especially around specific programs. So there's great things about street trees, the Greenscape Committee, charging stations, but also all of the events.
Great. Thank you very much. So I've just got a couple of things, mostly for the council. Here are some dates that you need to write down. April 20th is our chapter meeting at 6:30. It will be by Zoom. So that's the 20th. Bill Tompkin, for the president, CEO of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corps, will be the speaker. They have not set the May meeting, but that will, so this meeting is April 20th, 6:30. I've not seen the Zoom link, but I'll make sure you guys get it. Another event that's coming up, and this is for everybody, District 18 will be holding a town hall meeting upstairs in the drill hall on May 7th. Write down that's and that is from 3 to 5. Make sure I gave everybody the right date. Yes, May 7th, 3 to 5 up in the drill hall, and that's District 18 will be giving their report from their legislative year. So good thing to come to. And we didn't have the theater group, so it was easy for us to plan that here. Also, the May journal articles will be due May 11th. So make sure you get those to Carrie Ann before the 11th. Carrie Ann will actually be in the Galapagos Islands from April 23rd through May 9th. So if you have something for her that you need her to do, please get it to her ASAP. So, so that is her travel schedule. And then I think everybody heard, but the noise library was supposed to start this year. Our great leader, County Executive Mark Elrich, decided it was too expensive, and he's put it off for a year. Thinks it'll be cheaper next year, which I'm not sure I approve that. But so the foundation is supposed to be sending us a sample draft letter that hopefully we will can sign on to, or create a letter similar requesting that that the delay be no more than 1 year, because I just have a feeling it'll get delayed.
Well,
I mean, I'd like it to stay in now, but I'm not sure that that's possible.
and maybe also to convey that, I mean, the Noise Library Foundation, the Friends of Noise Library, worked extremely
Very
hard
hard.
to raise the funds, and in our District 18 representatives worked really hard to support this project, and putting it off a year. While there may be great hopes that it will be less expensive, I don't necessarily share the optimism, and I'd ask that the county executive, if it is in fact not less expensive, that the county be willing to meet the delta of waiting a year. And you know, if it's just moving it in the budget from 1 year to the next, if it gets to be more expensive, which is my real fear, I think it's unfair to move the goalpost
Constantly,
on the Noise Library Foundation. We ask that,
or tell them they need to raise another $1 million.
right, and I think it's on the county executive to meet the additional, any additional monies needed.
Well, I believe those estimates on the construction costs were from them. I
Yeah.
think quite a bit of that was from them. So I think it's terribly unfair. But I'm pleased every time I go by Noise Library on the days that they have the kids events, the place is just packed.
Mhm.
It really is a good turnout. So anyway, so I'm waiting on Lindsay Field to send us a draft letter on that. The CIP, the budget has not been approved yet, so we'll see where we go. So another item I wanted to just bring up, I did finally get a response on the Brookside Gardens, and council, you've been aware of this. That the county has decided not to purchase the property. I spoke with Kate Stewart, our county council person today. She spoke to the county attorney. For those who don't know, the property is owned by the Church of Latter-day Saints and the Mormon Church.
You mean the apartment?
The apartment building, I'm sorry. The apartments are owned by LDS. And they put it up for sale. We were hoping that the county would purchase it. And we were hoping to start a pilot program of creating a land trust so that the apartments could be sold to help with to help people to build equity and to have the benefits of homeownership. Mark loved the idea. We had a big turnout. And the LDS Church sent a letter to the county stating that their right of first refusal law does not apply to them because they are a religious organization. I personally didn't understand how that would work, considering they're putting it up for sale for not to sell to a religious organization. But apparently the law was written in a manner that the county attorney has decided that it needs to be rewritten, that they would be sued if they were to try to use the right of first refusal. So they did say to Kate Stewart, Councilmember Stewart, that Mark was unhappy with that, but he agreed that they would not proceed with it, and they would let it go. So Kate appreciated the fact that this has come up because they need to change the law to cover this for our future. And it's not just this particular one. There's some other things that don't, other laws that they've written that has this loophole that allows them to. Because the county, well, the Montgomery Housing Partners is the one that made the bid, and they were not the highest bid on the property. So, you know, they could not use their right of first refusal, which, see, again, I don't understand, because they still have to meet that bid and $1 over. But the county attorney has the last say in this. So anyway, we have reached out to Brian McCarthy, not heard back from him yet, regarding who they might have sold it to.
What the status of
What the status of the sale is. Yeah. So, but everybody knows spring break was last week. So hopefully we'll hear from them this week. So,
Yeah. And I'm reminded that Nate, at one point you said, well, even if the property doesn't end up in a nonprofit or county hands, should we look at doing a community land trust? And I think it's something we can still explore, because at least MHP seemed very willing to pilot that type of project.
right.
This was just a good opportunity because we had such an excellent housing asset.
That was ready to go, had
Right.
been remodeled and everything else. So, yeah.
So I guess I'm saying I'm willing to continue the conversation.
Well, I think we should.
and explore if there are other ways to look at promoting home ownership
Right,
in town.
right.
Thanks for the update.
Sure. Feel free to reach out to Kate if you want to talk to her. But that's where we are. I don't understand why I had to pull teeth in order to get this out of them, but anyway, so that's where we are, which is, it's very disappointing. Okay, so that is all I have. So Matt, do you have any reports you want to share?
Just a couple quick items. The toters for the snack shack, the composting bin have been delivered. So if you have any compost items, they are now at weekly collections.
Can we get signs made of what is allowed there?
Temporary signs.
You do have some.
We have 2 temporary signs ready to go, and we've asked Shannabon to make permanent signs, and once.
Okay, did that get, because
The
these
temporary
two guys
signs,
seem to have wanted to,
they're ready. The temporary signs are ready. We have them.
okay, everybody's happy with the temporary signs?
So
What day is the pickup?
it's Mondays.
Mondays.
It was
Okay.
today because we had a zebra collection.
Oh,
Could we have a?
Well, we
special-
haven't really sent it out, right?
Yeah.
Waiting for the video.
We intentionally,
I'm dropping mine off here next week.
when we spoke with Compost Crew, we needed to start it. So
Before we, to make sure
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, that makes
So-
sense.
So is there a plan to send a notice out to the community
Yeah.
that's active?
Is there a plan, guys?
Yes.
Newsletter. Aside from your stellar video, which we're all waiting for.
I mean, I feel like the video will speak for itself.
Well, the next journal is not going to go out till mid-May, so we
No,
want to
we'll
make
put them
sure
in-
that
yeah.
it's,
But e-blast.
yeah.
we can
Yep.
include it in the e-blast that goes
Yeah.
out for the summary of the council.
I'm just
meeting.
looking over what we had.
Did you,
There was one before this.
did anyone happen to talk to the folks at the farmer's market about it yet? And whether they would be bringing over
I haven't.
some of their.
I-
material?
I think they know about
I
it,
mean,
but
Nate, I focused on Nate from Vera's
Yeah.
just because he had
He had
so
so
much food
much.
waste. That's perfect, like the pulp oranges and all
So
that.
much, yeah.
He was very excited about it when it was talked about being at the Mark station. I haven't talked to him yet about it, it's still, he could pop by Town Hall on his way out
Yeah.
until it's, relocated, but I will mention it to him this Saturday.
well, hopefully it'll be one day at the M&T.
Mhm.
Was there any progress, Matt, on the CSX or Mark folks?
Not really.
Okay. Not yet.
We're trying to get a banner up for the 150th Met Line anniversary, and they're not being responsive.
Call a friend.
I mean, they're not gonna come by on a Saturday.
Yeah. it's right.
Okay. But I don't know whether they could have a special bucket there. I don't know. We just have to
I mean, yeah, maybe there's a way to,
figure it out. I mean, if it's there on Saturday and it could be picked up later in the afternoon or
let me talk to Nate and just see, like,
is he
what-
really unwilling?
he did not state it. He just, the last conversation was the idea that it would be there and they would be.
Yeah, I mean,
Easy
part of
to
the
meet.
problem for Nate is he's in a big pickup truck. He's
Mhm.
got a trailer on the back.
Yep.
And once you're all packed up, it may not be easy to get to the composting. And then there are occasions where the parking lot here is packed and
Mhm.
trying to get to the composting buckets may not be quite as easy.
Where does he put it right now?
Huh?
Where does he put it?
I don't,
He
should he
takes
take it
back
with
with
him?
him.
Yeah, so it's like,
So he is composting where he is?
Yeah, I
or-
mean, he puts it all in a, back in the box, like the fruit boxes that all comes in, he takes it with him.
Right,
I don't know what happens with it after that. He was very excited about the idea of getting it into compost.
okay,
stream.
so maybe he's not composting where he goes, where he
So,
lives.
Well, also, he just may not want it in his truck anymore. I mean. So maybe we meet him halfway until it's located closer to him. Where maybe there's a bin he can fill and just like drop off and then,
Mhm.
we can just move it.
Okay, well, we'll figure that one out.
So.
Okay, another time. All right. But anything else?
We ordered a topographic survey of Oberon Street. Our contractors and our traffic engineer and I walked Oberon Street for the sidewalk. We determined that we wanted to do a topo survey just to clear up a few issues specifically on Kensington Parkway. We're gonna need an easement in that location. So hopefully that will be done by the end of the month, and then we'll schedule a public meeting with the neighborhoods
On site.
to kind of give some feedback on what we're planning to do, and then we'll bring it back to the council after that. So maybe June for the council.
Okay,
So
okay. All right. I didn't give people an opportunity. If you have any questions for any of us regarding these reports, please let me see a show of hands or give you an opportunity. I'm not seeing anything, so we'll continue to move on. All right, ordinance resolutions and regulations, Matt.
Mayor and Council, an ordinance of the Mayor and Town Council of Kensington to appropriate and adopt fiscal year FY 24 budget and to levy a tax on certain real and personal property under the provisions of the tax property article of the annotated code of Maryland is before you this evening for a public hearing. Per town policy, the public hearing will stay open until Friday, May 5th at 4:00 p.m. But this evening has an opportunity to start the conversation or answer any questions the community, the residents, or the mayor and council. So we posted the ordinance within the Around Town Journal as required. It's posted on the town website, and it was linked on the agenda this past Friday for public view.
Okay. All right, well, the hearing is open. Did we have anybody sign up here? No?
You can ask. There's just two people.
Well, just asking, I have to ask. All right, is anyone online would like to speak to the budget? Joe?
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering if the town manager might give us a very brief overview of the budget. I don't believe there's going to be a tax increase, but that would be something to address. And if there are other highlights that he could identify and mention.
Sure. So we are not proposing a tax increase for the 5th consecutive year on real property, personal property, or on the utilities. So this would be the 5th consecutive year with the same rate. Overall, our funds are pretty strong. You may have noticed if you read the fiscal year operating and capital improvement budget is income tax revenues are driving our revenues. This will be the first year we've ever exceeded over $1 million. We are, in the FY24 budget, we're being a little cautious with that number. We're estimating revenues of income of 800,000. There's a number of highlights, mostly within the CIP. We are looking to move forward with our bridge renovation project. We'll be awarding a bid to Brutus and Associates this evening for engineering, design, and construction management. We hope to have an additional RFP out sometime in September or October for the actual repair and reconstruction of the bridges. Our estimate for that is around $300,000 for the actual construction and reconstruction. We are looking to move forward with our storm drain analysis now that the bridge RFP has been completed. We are, I got a few more CIPs in here. Street repair and resurfacing, we're looking at about $250,000 towards, this is mostly the overrun project that would come out of for that. We're looking to replace one of our pickup trucks. Our oldest vehicle, which is a 2008 Ford F-250, needs replaced. We are looking to acquire 2 parcels on St. Paul, which potential locations for a new public works facility. And as the council has discussed earlier this evening, we're also looking to acquire a property within the Kensington Business District, which is the M&T property. Within the actual budget, there's been a number of changes. We moved a few items. Specifically, we moved Juneteenth to a municipal event. They were previously a grant, so we moved them within a town municipal event. We also added funding to the Light Up K-Town event. Within professional services, you may have noticed there was a huge increase from last year. That is to cover 2 specific things. We're requesting $8,000 to hire a archivist to help with town records. These are specifically for like town minutes and town records to help out Susan with that. We are also requesting $50,000 to allow the town to essentially take over the archiving and historical records of the Kensington Historical Society. This would not stop the KHS from operating. It would just kind of change their focus. They'll look at doing community events like the summer concert series, the speaker series, working with the Ditto group on the train show, but the town would take over the actual archiving and historical records. Most of that funding would go to repairs to our archives room. There's a number of issues with the archives room and there's some equipment. So we don't believe that those funding of $50,000 would be next year as well. We're probably looking more in the $12,000 to $16,000 after the improvements to the archive room. To the town staff, we are requesting a 4.4% COLA increase. To town staff, we're also requesting for a number of hourly positions within public safety and public works, an additional 3% so we can stay competitive in the market rate. You are seeing about a 10% increase with healthcare costs going over the next year, and everything else is pretty similar. The budget hasn't changed too much from last year, other than kind of the items that we touched on.
Joe, does that answer your question?
I was wondering if the $300,000 estimate to repair the bridges in the south part of town, is that just an estimate for fiscal year 24, or is that going to take care of the project in its entirety?
It's our hope that we'll take care of the project entirely. Bids are coming in high right now. We're a little concerned with that number, but that was the preliminary number given to us by our engineering consultant.
And this estimate of 300,000 is apart from the contract that you're about to let tonight to.
It would be separate, so it would be a separate contractor. So the contract that we're awarding this evening would actually design the repairs and oversee the construction management. And they will draft a new RFP for a construction company. Like I said, that we hope will go out in maybe September or October of this year, depending on permitting. Repairs might start early fall next year.
So that contract that'll be let to the project manager is we should add that to the 300,000 to get a better sense of the cost of this of the bridge repairs. Is that correct?
The 300,000 will be the cost of the construction, in addition to the $125,000 this evening. So we're looking at about a $450,000 project.
Okay, and the hope is that it'll take care of it this year. You'll finish it up in fiscal year 24.
I can't guarantee that would be my hope, but yes.
Yeah, that's what I asked. There's a line item there of unassigned fund balance with a date of 6/30/22 and the amount of $972,000. What is that item?
That is the surplus from FY22. That's the audited surplus from FY22, which will be appropriated into the CIP for infrastructure projects within the town.
So are you planning to use that total amount in the coming fiscal year? Or is that going to roll over probably for another year
It
or
goes with
two?
the CIP. It's a non-lapsing CIP. So what we'll do is we assign it to a specific line item, whether it's land acquisition, stormwater management, one of the line items within the CIP, and those funds are allocated. So any surplus is allocated directly to the CIP to offset infrastructure projects improvements to the town moving forward. So to answer your question specifically, not necessarily, we would not necessarily spend all that money in this fiscal year. It may take a few years for those funds to be appropriated, but they will be assigned to a specific line item.
But they haven't been assigned for this coming fiscal year.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. I noticed there's a the fiscal year 24 salary schedule. Very confusing, I must say, because it discusses minimum and maximum ranges of salaries. And I don't know where we stand in terms of who's being paid what. And there's been a lot of discussion earlier tonight about transparency. So I'm wondering if this chart could be clarified in any way to make it more transparent, to make it more clear as to who's being paid what in terms of the town and its staff. I mean, I don't know which page this is on. I believe it's page 20. At least that's the one I'm looking at. It's called FY24 salary schedule, Town of Kensington. Could you clarify this for me?
So the council is required to approve a salary schedule within each position for the town staff. We do not put the individual salary on the salary schedule. It is always available to the public. As you know, we've provided to you each and every time you've asked. As I've told you in previous years, if you take the high and the low, we try to keep mid-market. So if you take the median range of the salary schedule, that's typically where a town employee will fall.
So add it up, divide by 2, and that kind of gives us a sense of
Gives you a pretty good idea of where each employee is at.
what you and the other town staff are being paid. I see. Okay. So I noticed that there's a reference. I don't believe you mentioned this, and I have no objection to this, but there's a reference to a request for reclassifying the assistant to town manager position to become assistant town manager, to restore the assistant town manager's position. That was not mentioned, I don't think, in your overview. And I just wonder if you could just explain that a little bit.
I'm requesting the funds from the council to promote Alex Marini from assistant to the town manager to assistant town manager.
Right, I understand that. And is this something that's what's driving this?
Performance, we'd like to promote her. She's taking on more responsibilities, and we'd like to reward her with that.
As I say, I have no objections to this at all. I think Alex has been a star on the town staff, and her work and her and her manner has been has been exemplary. And so I just wondered what was behind this, because I believe when she was hired, that was a question: is she going to be the assistant town manager or assistant to the town? You know, there was a little bit of vernacular there that was unclear at the time. So.
The position was posted as assistant to the town manager. It was advertised as assistant to the.
Oh,
town
I
manager,
understand that, but.
And the salary schedule was set as assistant to the town manager.
Right, but was it going to be an assistant town manager position? I remember that question being asked specifically at that time. So, as always, this transparency about salary is not proactive. It has to be requested. A town person has to call town hall and ask for the salary, specific salaries. Is that what you're telling me, Matt?
Yes.
Right. Okay. I guess I have no other questions.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Is there any other questions regarding the budget? Seeing no hands. So, thank you, Matt. We will need a motion to keep the hearing open until the Friday,
4 p.m. on May 5th.
8th.
Well, I move that we hold the public hearing for ordinance number O-01-2023 open until 4 p.m. on Friday, May 5th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you
you.
very much. All right, next.
Thank you, council. Before you this evening is resolution number R-08-2023, a resolution of the mayor and council of the town of Kensington authorizing contract with Brutus and Associates Incorporated for design, engineering, and project management services for the rehabilitation of 3 town bridges. We hired WR Engineering to be our consultant. They put together the bid package and that went out to eMaryland Marketplace. We had 5 proposed bidders. We ended up receiving only 2 bids. After review of the bid proposals and references, WRA Engineering is recommending that the council move forward with awarding the bid to Brutus and Associates. I will say that after recalculation of their bid sheet, this bid came in about $75,000 less than the next bid. Again, we only received 2. We're asking for you to award the bid to Brutus and Associates. I would like to make an amendment to the resolution. I would like to add some contingency funds to the bid amount. So we don't have to go through a change order. I'm requesting $20,000 on top of the $124,205. So I'm requesting a total allocation of $144,205 from the council.
But right now, the contract price is $124,205, correct?
Correct. And
Okay.
we are anticipating some change orders, and we're pretty confident that 20,000 should cover that.
I don't know of a job that doesn't have change orders. Council, do you have any questions regarding the amendment? Does anyone in the audience have a question regarding the ordinance? Or the resolution, excuse me? Okay, not seeing any hands. All right, someone want to make a motion?
I can do it. I move to adopt resolution R-08-2023 as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, council. Before you this evening is resolution number R-09-2023, a resolution of the Kensington Town Council confirming appointments made by the mayor to the Development Review Board. Mayor Furman is requesting that Mark Hudson, who would serve as a business, and Leslie Maxim, who would serve as a resident, be reappointed to the Development Review Board with a term ending April 30th, 2024. Mike Hennihan, Andrew Roud, and Michael Gordon would continue on as they were appointed last year through April 20th, 2024, and I should say 25.
Yeah.
Please note that Mark Hudson and Leslie Maxim's terms would end April 30th, 2025.
Okay, and I think, I think that this is their second term.
Yep.
So I think we've been pretty consistent about just allowing people 2 terms.
Correct. And then
And part of it is sometimes there isn't anything.
all of last year, we did not look at a single.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Application.
So I think it gives people that are on the DRB an opportunity to actually do something. So, okay, thank you. And both have agreed to just.
I said a quick question.
Oh.
about this. I just was wondering if, I know they said it was like business resident, and do we have it spelled out somewhere? in DRB? How-
Yeah, it's a
how much
DRB guideline document that was
Okay.
put together probably about 5 years ago now.
For the proportion of,
Yes, the
Members.
DRB was first created. There wasn't specificity around how it operated, what it did with recommendations, how it was constituted. There were different resolutions that stated these things, but outside of having to go back into the minutes and the history books every time, we pulled it together on the development webpage. You should be able to see it, but it's just a thing called the DRB guidelines that lays out what is the membership, what are the types of membership. So there's business, professional, resident, and then the council liaisons. How long terms can be, who can serve in what capacities, right? Obviously resident makes sense, but a business, you would be with a business within our incorporated boundaries. And then a professional is somebody in the professional development trades. It could be a landscape architect, travel, transportation specialist, a developer, land use architect. So,
I was just curious.
yeah.
Yeah, it's more about the proportion of.
Well, yes,
representation.
and then, well,
Yeah.
but importantly, the other thing that it does is helps to identify how the DRB works so that
Oh.
the DRB itself doesn't take any actions other than making recommendations to the council. And there was confusion about that, 5 years ago. So we wanted to make it abundantly clear again about transparency, that the purpose of the DRB is to review the applications, assess the quality of the design, the community benefits, and then make recommendations back to the council on support or not to support, how to support as far as the letter of recommendation or testimony, et cetera. And then the council takes action.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, we get a motion?
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I move that we adopt resolution number R-09-2023, confirming appointments made by the mayor, the Development Review Board.
Okay, I'm sorry, I did not ask the people in the audience if they had any questions regarding the ordinance, so. Well, okay, not seeing any hands, so is there a second?
You correct the years.
Should it be 25?
2025. They're pointing-
20 through 25. Yeah.
Okay, as amended. You wanna redo it?
I move that we adopt resolution number R-09-2023 as amended,
Okay,
so that we can confirm the appointments made by the mayor to the Development Review Board.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right. So, council, all right, we have one item left.
I forgot.
Oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
forgot an update. It was, we were originally for the BIPA, for the bicycle and pedestrian priority area planning process. We were originally going to have a town, kind of a public hearing, not public hearing, a public meeting.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was going to take place this coming Thursday, but because of new,
State Highway
State
Administration.
Highway Administration policy for internal commenting on any documents and materials they produce for events or meetings. And guess why that is? Probably of recent happenings elsewhere in the county, but they require 6 weeks to review it. So we have to push that back to May. What was the date we decided?
I thought it was June.
Or sorry,
June,
June, early
June.
June. Early
Yeah.
June, yeah.
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah,
So
it was
it'll be in early June, and I'll send the date around to everybody. for
Okay,
what
is that
it's-
a meeting that we've been holding in the drill hall?
We would, and Matt checked already, and it's gonna be available.
Okay,
I thought it was June.
First or second, I thought, but I forgot to make
Yeah,
that. So thank you.
I think it's June 1st.
June is a
1st.
Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it
Okay.
would be.
We'll provide information that will go out on the e-blasts, and we should, if we have a journal out before then, we'll include it as well.
Well, it should be in the May 11th, I mean, the journal, because it'll come out, because we're doing it so we can have candidates of their
Profiles.
profiles, so
Okay.
you know, so we'll get it out before the election.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get information out to that for the public, but it's gonna be very interactive, just kind of come as you go. There was an earlier part with some like a smaller stakeholder group of
Okay.
transportation partners, but this is more of a, share ideas of what the recommendations are for the plan and just hear, have some focus groups and dialogue.
Okay.
The other thing was, Matt, is there still an SHA quarterly meeting tomorrow?
As far as I know, there is.
Okay.
There's some, I don't know, it should be a short meeting.
Okay,
We just got the data for Oberon and Metropolitan from our traffic engineer, so I've not even reviewed it yet. And unless they give me an update on the rapid flashing beacon,
I would like an update on the rapid.
yeah, I already know them.
yeah, and we can also tell them about the ULI.
But there's a couple other things I need from them, just administrative stuff for the upcoming events in the town. We just need them to clarify the road closures and
Okay.
stuff, so. I talked.
For the events.
Yeah, I talked to the mayor about possibly postponing it, but this will give us a good opportunity to just make sure they got our road
Yes.
closure request.
It's good to hold them accountable, just.
Yeah.
a couple-
Well, and then just
that
set
are
a
there.
new meeting while they're all on, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so we'll be there. I'll be there. I don't know if Darren will be there. Okay.
no, okay,
I'll be there. Okay, thank you. Sorry about not including.
that's
that.
okay, that's all right, all right, good. Okay, last item on the agenda is public appearances. It's your opportunity to bring up anything you want to talk about that's not already on the agenda. Anybody? Joe?
Sure, yeah. On that Brookside Garden
Mhm.
apartments sale, do we know who is buying the place?
I said we reached out to the Realtor to ask that question and we've not heard back from him.
So we don't know who's buying
We
it.
don't heard, I don't know today. No.
Okay. Given that every year in Kensington is election year, and given that the incumbent council members who are up for re-election this year sort of deferred in answering this question last month, I just wonder if they have, in the month since then, have given further thought to whether they're going to stand for re-election or not.
I don't recall Connor deferring. Did you defer?
I mean, I said I love this job. Let me ask you, Joe, do you think I should run again?
That's not, it's my turn to
It's
ask the
up to you.
questions, and
It is.
I'm asking you and Councilmember Bartram if you plan to run. That's a simple question, and there's no need to turn it back on me.
I said it last week or last month. Yes, I mean, I love this job.
Okay.
I would think I'm planning to file to run.
Oh, okay. A little bit of news then tonight. Thank you.
Aren't you glad you stayed?
You know, that brings up an item I was thinking about bringing up, and I was going to defer on it, but I just happened to take a look at the Town of Kensington org chart that accompanies the budget. And I see that citizens are listed at the very top of that org chart. Perhaps that's been that way for a long time. It's just the first time I've noticed it. So I'm wondering whether the council or the mayor would consider putting the citizens' questions and comments at the outset of the meeting rather than waiting to the end, since the citizens clearly are at the top of the town's org chart.
Yes, but in that way, Joe, we want you to have the last word.
Yeah, but I'd rather have the first word. I think that would be a little more appropriate given the org chart showing citizens on top.
Would you leave after? Or would you stay for the?
Why would you ask that?
No, I
Would
mean.
you like me to leave? Is
I
that
think
what you're
the point
asking?
of the public appearances is that we're inviting people to talk to things that are not on the agenda.
Right, and we have, the agenda is published at least 3 days in advance, so, we could see what's on the agenda, ask the questions, and then attend the rest of the meeting. Just a suggestion.
No, it is, and it's a good one. It's a fair one, Joe. I actually think of it in the inverse, that part of the reason the agenda comes first is those are the things that have already been brought forward, possibly through previous meetings that require either staff attention or council attention. We have reports on them, and so we want to give that feedback to those residents who brought those items forward and obviously engage them. They may want to participate on that specific event. So, allow them their time and then open it up at the end for anything that hasn't been discussed. Because that might inform the agenda for the next council meeting.
Yeah, that sounds great on paper, but that's not how it works. I mean, it's almost always 9 o'clock or later before you get to the citizens' comments and suggestions. And I'm suggesting that since they're at the top of the org chart, they should come first in the meetings. Or maybe have it this way. You could have it both at the start and at the end. I mean, that would be very imaginative, wouldn't it?
It would be. Okay, well, thank you for your comments.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you.
Leslie, go ahead.
So if everyone could just visualize the St. Paul Metropolitan and Pliers Mill Triangle, we continue to have difficulty with both landscape management and trash on that whole corridor surrounding the storage facility, as well as down Metropolitan with the retail. And on too many occasions, if you go down Metropolitan, you'll find trash blown up against the fencing to the storage. And it's actually not the storage trash. It's coming from both the florist and Medina. And I've spoken with Medina, and they did clean up all the boxes that had somehow gotten away from the recycling. And I haven't spoken with the florist, but I did notice that they're also they are getting cleaned up. But until they get cleaned up, that whole area sometimes can be littered with papers and cardboard boxes and trash. And then you go around the corner to St. Paul, and Pepco all the way down are not maintaining the trees or the grounds, loose branches that might fall. Some are still hanging on wires. Is there anything that the town can do to get them to step up? I mean, there's some wonderful flowering trees on Pliers Mill along the
They're the cherries.
large cherry trees. They're just beautiful, but they're not being maintained, and they're being there's a lot of invasive growth coming up around them. The pocketed areas around the trees are just it's just kind of wild.
Okay, well, I agree with you 100% about the trash. I've seen it. I know, I didn't realize that Modena, because I think their dumpsters should be inside the garage. Is it not in the garage?
They have another one
They've
outside,
added a second dumpster.
Okay,
and we just had high wind events.
well,
Pulled it
that's
all
the unfortunate thing. I pick up Safeway napkins, the little hand wipes. They're everywhere on this side of the tracks. I mean, it's just ridiculous, those hand wipes and receipts and circulars. I mean, Safeway's a #1 trash, but most of it's the light stuff that flies around. But I agree with Leslie, the pedals to the metal, which I absolutely love. The boxes are overflowing in their dumpsters, and yeah, they go flying. So and they all end up against the fence of the storage place. I haven't seen vines on the cherries on Metropolitan. Or are you
On
talking about
Pliers
St. Paul?
Mill, Pliers Mill, along the Pliers Mill area.
Oh, and Pliers Mill, not Metropolitan.
Yeah, no, the ones on Metropolitan are very nice and neatly kept. The other ones, though, do have some
Cherries all
invasive.
along the storage unit.
vines.
I'll take a look. I mean, they seem to be well maintained. Leslie, it is not as well maintained under the current ownership group as it was under.
Oh, not
America's
at all,
Self-Storage.
not at all. It's a 2
Uh,
compared to a 10. It
Yeah,
was a gorgeous property before, and they've let it go. It's not maintained.
Yeah.
so I mean, it's.
So there's no question, but
general basic mowing. To your comments about Pepco along St. Paul Street, I don't know if you noticed, they actually did come out this weekend.
Yeah, we told them.
Yeah, so the town inquired, they had a crew out. I mean, it may not be everything that you would have done or I would have done, but they did clean up. They had an entire truck full of debris that they took away.
Okay. Well, I know this time of year too, your lawn mowing is a little, because the weather's cold and then it's hot and then it's raining. So the grass is, some is up here and some is down here. So I have found that it takes a couple of weeks until regular lawn mowing gets going. So, but I know, Annie, our, code officer is on top of it and she's hitting them up, but it sometimes it takes a while for those. I mean, everybody, oh, I don't want to pay. I'm going to wait another week until I bring the guy out so I get a free week or something. So it does take a while.
I didn't look at it today, so it might be fine, but there are a lot of invasive vines up in the trees. And so that's a
Okay,
concern.
there's, you can do a service request online and that will go right to Annie and Matt and Alex. And they can follow up with it. So
Okay.
that's very helpful if you just fill out a service request. And sometimes you can include, I think you can include a picture if you wanted to. That's very helpful.
That's not town property, so that's just a.
No, but if they're not, if grass is up to here, they're, that's against.
It's not
the code.
grass, it's just,
Well, I know, but if they're not keeping it, to a certain extent, you can't. There's only a level in which you can, people, if they have vines in the trees.
And some of it can just be used for education. Remind them that we
Yeah.
have certain code ordinances around property being maintained, even private property, commercial property.
And
So it's not,
trash.
yeah, so it's not that it's necessarily going straight to an enforcement action, it's an education action.
So, but yeah, I mean, send those in. That's really helpful. I mean, don't wait to tell us at a town meeting. Send those in.
oh, no, I have, and I've called 311 or whatever. And I've reported it there because the fencing's always down. And I've talked to Pepco and their position is they do maintenance quarterly. So
They schedule maintenance quarterly.
they may schedule it, maybe they don't do it quarterly, but
Yeah, so that's why just fill out it, let us know. Like we mentioned it to Matt called them, they came right out and cleaned it up.
okay.
It's also the year, it's the season of growth. So yeah, that stretch along St. Paul Street all of a sudden went from passable to a jungle in like seven days.
Yeah, when you have warm weather like that,
Mhm.
they do. Okay, Karen, did you have a question?
I did. It's more an invitation, I guess, to the council members. I would love to talk more about why you think the M&T bank spot is a good place for additional parking. When I look at the map and think about the flow in and out of town, especially when there's events, I would think that you would want something either closer to Connecticut or outside of Montgomery Avenue, so that, if you think about like the Labor Day parade, people can access parking and you can still have the parade event and the flow and whatever through town. I worry that that location specifically is going to draw so much traffic into town that people will actually be discouraged from coming to town because they'll be like, oh yeah, Kensington used to be cute, but now like just trying to get in there to the parking lot takes like 15 minutes. Because when you congest people, pedestrians, people who might be getting on and off of public transport and the cars getting into that parking lot, like that's, I think, a recipe for disaster. But I would love to talk more about kind of that thinking in the long range vision of utilizing that space in that way.
Okay, I mean, there'll be plenty of time because the parking lot actually, I mean, the building obviously would be removed. The building wouldn't be there, so we have somebody who would lay it out.
Maybe there's like another way to access it. There's a lot of underutilized space in that
But we
whole
don't control
area.
those
Right.
necessarily, those underutilized spaces. So
Karen, we see each other at St. Paul Park frequently. I think, I love talking about the town, so just ask.
I'll look for you. I'm usually there for bus stop in the afternoon, but I'll look for you.
All right, weekends more so. So, but yeah, we'll connect.
Yeah, it's also something we can continue talking about in the Sustainable Kensington group too.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, sure.
I was like, everybody wants to get home. I just want to say this has been it's been a pleasure. It's my first town hall as well. And I'm really appreciative of the council being so transparent and open about the discussions. I have a very small thing. There's an intersection right by, there's a little pizza place there. It's kind of,
Manny's?
no, I'm sorry, I had it up.
Frankly.
No, Tag Team Kitchen, are you familiar?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Tag team,
Okay.
they make the pizza. Yeah,
Exactly. So if you're
Pizza.
coming from the train station across, right by Tag Team, that
Yes.
specific intersection, it's really, really bad intersection.
at Wheatley.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought this up.
Yes.
That's where that,
So there's a little history here.
Supposed to be.
My comments about SHA in the meeting that's occurring tomorrow. So St. Paul Street, which is one block further west, used to be uncontrolled. It now has a stop sign.
four-way stop.
And during the construction for Medina, we advocated to get that stop sign put in. At the same time, we've been advocating with SHA that the pedestrian crosswalk at Wheatley, that's the intersection you're talking about, because of sight lines, is also needs improvements. And what SHA has approved is what's called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So RRFB, I don't know if but that's what you'll hear us shorthanded. But the idea is that you can come up and activate, you push a button and it flashes the yellow lights to indicate to traffic that pedestrians are going to be active in crossing the street. It's approved by SHA. It was approved
Years ago.
2-3 years ago.
Okay.
But then they couldn't find the money and then they kind of forgot about it. And now they're looking back for the money and it's still approved and it's on the schedule. And it was going to be last spring and now it's going to be this spring. And
So just to round that out,
yeah,
I reached out June of last year. Okay, I've got a little one. So, I mean, during the spring, summertime, you can see it, right? But, coming fall, winter.
oh yeah, daylight savings time.
Exactly. So, but I reached out June of last year. They said it's approved.
Yep.
We're gonna move forward.
Yes.
They promised that it would be March, April.
Mhm.
And I reached back out to them like a good citizen and I said, what's the status? And they said, probably the end of the year.
Mhm.
And I complained, right? I wrote them and I had pictures and everything and I sent it to them, but I didn't know if there's anything that we can do to, put a little bit more pressure. Because my email to them was, to be very frank, it was, you've got a lot of things on your slate as a Department of Transportation, I know. But it's amazing to me that even from my request, it would be a year and a half before putting in simple little beacons. So
Yes.
I think there might be a way that we
I
can.
couldn't agree more.
Right
Raise
to
your voice.
somebody.
We'll continue to raise ours. I will tell you my frustration with this particular project is that just to get to this point required a traffic survey, which State Highway came out and conducted. But they don't conduct them during rush hour traffic because they don't want to disrupt rush hour traffic. And they didn't do pedestrian counts because they're the State Highway Administration, not the State Pedestrian Administration. And our point was, but these are crosswalks to a commuter rail station. And so we had to get them to go back and redo the study, which the good news is technology made it now that it wasn't somebody sitting in a car checking, tallying people. They put a recording device out. They captured everything that happened and realized, oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, people don't stop. I mean.
And there's a lot of
physically put
pedestrian
yourself
traffic.
out. Yeah.
That's what we were trying to tell them. It's, yes, the vehicles are the problem, but the problem is the intersection of the vehicles and pedestrians. And so they get it, but I'm just as frustrated that you are that we are without an RRFP.
I mean, I'm someone who I lost my grandmother to a traffic accident. And she was crossing a road and she was hit by a car. So it's very personal to me as well.
So your comment about a little one, I've got 4 little ones. I don't want them
No,
crossing the
exactly.
street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I feel like there's someone we can talk to.
Well,
because-
we are on a call quarterly
Yeah,
with
it's fine.
SHA
Sorry.
tomorrow.
And it's
And
always number one on.
It is number 1 on the list
And
and
I think we should mention just that we know that residents have individually continue to reach out. We just can't. I don't know. It's just.
I mean, we've even offered to pay for it. And install ourselves for reimbursement. And they told us that Oops needed to approve it. It's been a challenge. with that.
it's frustrating.
I would be happy to forward my exchanges with them just for your records if it's helpful.
It probably would be helpful.
Yeah, please.
And I think maybe we reach out, to Jarrett and Jeff and get them on the call.
Good
I
point.
mean, they're
So-
done tonight. So
Well, I don't, they're done now, aren't they? Tonight?
it's at 11:59.
Yeah. But I'm not sure we'll be able to reach out to him before that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay,
Points.
Thank you.
I don't see any more hands. So council, we will be meeting in May. We were discussing about meeting in person again in May. That would be the 8th.
That would still mean hybrid for those of you at home.
Yes, of
This
course.
is just
Yeah,
us.
although I would like somebody handling the camera because you guys don't get to be on camera when you're talking, and I think that would be really helpful. So I'm the one that's always up.
I mean, I can turn mine on,
There
I
you
just choose not to.
Oh, the camera's off. Oh, okay. It's not show. So if I had this off, it wouldn't show.
Is that better?
So yeah, I was gonna say, so I should just do this.
Yes.
Okay, it would be helpful though if you guys were on, so everybody can see you talking. All right, good. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, she talked, you just threw up a pin.
I
All those in favor?
didn't vote. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We'll
Thank
see you all around town.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.